Yes, there is a lot of talk about the Department of Government Efficiency. Whether that's going to be the final name, who knows how it's going to be constituted, but that doesn't matter. Yes, Vivek and Elon are coming for all the bureaucrats, and a lot of us could not be happier. Now, one thing the left keeps bringing up is civil servant employment rules, and they can't be fired, and this and that. Well, A, I'm sure they've thought about that. B, there's always a way. There's always a way to use the bureaucracy against something, even if it's against the bureaucracy. But in cases where there might actually be hard to get around rules about firing some of the people that needed to be fired, there are other options. So maybe a bit of a story time. Here in Miami, we have the headquarters of a number of major cruise lines, and you meet and spend time with people that work for the cruise lines, and they just tell you, funny stories about their time on board. And one of the things that I learned a long time ago was that the cruise lines have, let's just call them punishment ships. Not really punishment ships, but if a crew member is not performing up to standards, or they have done something that embarrasses the company, but it's not so bad that they want to be fired, then they will transfer them to a specific ship to basically ride out the contract. And this is where they transfer all of these such cases. They do become kind of the punishment ship of the fleet, where all the misfits are sent before they are eventually sent home. And yes, the United States could do something very, very similar. The Trump administration could do something very similar with all of these bureaucrats who either don't take the hint or are very difficult to fire, because while they might not be fired, probably they could be transferred. And you know what? Depending on where they're transferred, they might not want to go. So all these bureaucrats who, again, aren't going to take the hint, well, you know what? I'm sure the Department of Health and Human Services just absolutely needs a larger office on Guam or American Samoa. Department of Transportation, clearly they need to increase their headcount on the Northern Mariana Islands. And the Department of Veterans Affairs, you know what? There might be some positions, a lot of brand new positions in Puerto Rico. Who knows? And all these other federal bureaucracies. I mean, heck, Department of Energy, you know what? They've got to, you know what? They are absolutely needed in Addis Ababa or Astana or even Muscat. You never know what's going to happen, right? Yeah, just transfer them. Just transfer them. You know what? We may have to end up paying some of them, because these people can be stubborn, but I think that will give them the hint. And believe me, these DC bureaucrats or these big city bureaucrats, depending on the agency and where they are currently employed, they're not going to want to leave this, especially if they are DC bureaucrats. They're not going to want to leave the Beltway to go off to some, distant, non-first world city. But just to be clear, Astana and Muscat, they're not third world, okay? And Addis Ababa, that's a very up-and-coming city. But these snobs from DC, they're not going to want to go there. So there you go. Yes, I learned about punishment ships. I'm not going to say prison ships because that's not really what they are, but punishment ships. And yeah, it's something the Trump administration can definitely do with the bureaucrats when they need some encouragement to find employment in the private sector. Just send them someplace, have them do busy work, and they will eventually, they're bureaucrats, they'll eventually get the hint. You know I'm right. So go ahead and subscribe so you can see me in the next one.